When you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So it's really important to not take on other people's wishes for you and their shoulds and their directives, but to really find from within yourself what's important to you and where your gifts are, because we all have these inner gifts and these amazing inner opportunities that we need to tap into to fulfill really our mission for being here.
Welcome to the Laws of Business podcast. Here, we will share the skills you need to make your business a success. Learn about goal setting, productivity, time management, marketing, and much more. Hear inspiring stories with today's best business leaders and join a hub of thousands of passionate entrepreneurs across the world. And now, here's your host, Jamil Jama.
Welcome to another episode of the Law of Business podcast, where I chat with today's most successful entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Jamil Jama, and today we've got a real special guest. She has accomplished a lot, Peggy Sealfon. Peggy Sealfon is a personal development coach, speaker, and author. Peggy Sealfon educates, inspires, and empowers her audiences. She is an internationally known expert on helping clients overcome chronic stress, fear, and anxiety. Her effective protocols, especially her integrated life coaching system, guides business groups and individuals in cutting-edge methods to improve productivity, performance, and address issues of health, relationships, work, or life purpose. Using her keen intuitive abilities, she blends Eastern and Western traditions from ancient yogic techniques, mindfulness, and spirituality to functional medicine, modern psychology, energy, medicine, nutrition, and neurosciences. She connects with people of all walks of life and brings that effortless approach to finding precisely what resonates with each, so they may experience truly transformational changes. Peggy Sealfon has been a keynote speaker at national conferences and is author of the best-selling book, Escape from Anxiety, Supercharge Your Life with Powerful Strategies from A to Z, and co-author of Change Insights into Self-Empowerment with Jim Britt. Jim Britt was Tony Robbins' first mentor. So Jim Britt was Tony Robbins' first mentor, and Peggy Sealfon has co-authored a book with him. Peggy has most recently become publisher of the book Embodying the Power of the Zero Stress Zone. Peggy is originally from New York City, New York, and now resides in Naples, Florida. And a guy called Philip Matthews, host of the PM show, says, after years of interviewing the most elite thinkers, thought leaders, and change agents in the world, in his personal opinion, Peggy Sealfon is the unequivocal stress and anxiety expert. She is his personal guru on the subject, and he highly recommends that she be yours as well. Peggy is a former journalist in New York City, and Peggy has contributed articles to publications around the world, including the New York Times and Newsweek International. She also owned a marketing company before turning her energies fully to becoming a wellness expert. She has a PhD in reinventing herself and trains others to find their path to purpose. Now, here are a few fun facts about Peggy, which is real cool, which surprised me. Peggy rode a motorcycle across the entire US and Canada. So the whole of US and Canada twice, right?
Yes. What a fantastic experience. Both of them were.
But Canada must have been quite hard because of the snow. And was it in the summer?
Yes, I did do it in warmer weather, although it was quite cold out on the Pacific coastline out in Tofino, which is the furthest point west you can get on the island of Victoria. And it was really cold. And now that I live in Southwest Florida, I'm used to warm temperatures. So the cold is a little bit challenging for me. I had layers on top of my layers, but I'll tell you, it was fabulous to just meet the people we met and have the experiences, see the different scenery, the changing environments, and the people's just hopes and dreams and the work that they were doing in different parts of the country. It was fascinating, just a really incredible experience.
It must have been real fun, but hard as well. You did that, was it twice, like 2 times Canada and 2 times in America?
Yes, the first time I had just graduated from college, so I was 21 years old, and did 12,000 miles meandering from New York City up into Canada, back to the States, and just kind of kept looping back and forth until the West Coast. And then the second time was about 10 years ago, and I did about 15,000 miles. I had my advertising agency at the time, and I literally ran my agency from my cell phone and a laptop. And let me tell you, 10 years ago, it was very challenging to do that. There were areas of the country that I could not get a good cellular connection. So I had to manage staff from afar, and that was really difficult. But I thought, I only have one life to live. Wow. And this was what I wanted to do. And if worst came to absolute worst, my agency would collapse and I would do something else. And so I just made choices along the way. And I think we all do that, but oftentimes the choices we make are choices to satisfy others rather than to tune into what serves our soul.
That sounds so cool. Was it a Harley Davidson motorbike?
Yes, it was.
I thought so because I think that's the only motorbike you can do that on. I'm not too sure.
Oh, that's not true. You could do it on a large Honda. They have really good Honda road bikes, and there are other bikes that you can do it on. There are some that aren't as comfortable as others, but and I just gave up my motorcycle about 2 years ago because living in the area I live in, it's, I hate to say it, but it's almost dangerous because we have a lot of very elderly drivers and a lot of tourists who don't know where they're going. And you're really unprotected being on a motorcycle. Even though I wore a helmet, I would always wear the right clothes, but I just began to fear that it wasn't a good idea to keep riding in this particular area.
That's cool. And more fun facts about you is you produced and hosted a broadcast radio show on Fox called New Beginnings about wellness, which was way before its time and only lasted 1 year. Way before its time, was that? I'm guessing was that in the 90s?
No, actually, I'm trying to think. It was about 8 years ago. And it was at the time, it was about 8 years ago, because it was about the time Obamacare was coming into effect here in the United States. And there really was not the audience for it then, because we were really trying to motivate and encourage people, inspire people to really embrace their own accountability for wellness rather than always deferring it to the government or to others. And it was just a really difficult time to find the audience, and especially with the kind of framework of Fox, because Fox has a certain orientation, appeals to a certain clientele, and we just weren't exactly in alignment with the audience. But it was a great show. I loved doing it, and I got to do a lot of what you're doing, interviewing different people and learning from lots of different experts and celebrities. And so it was really gratifying for me personally. It just professionally wasn't very yielding.
And you also, Peggy also plays competitive tennis and is a 19 handicap golfer. You also teach sports performance. Peggy also teaches sports performance workshops. Now, golf is real cool. I definitely want to try golfing. I mean,
golf is a wonderful sport.
Sorry?
Golf is a wonderful sport. It takes a lot of patience, perseverance, practice. No matter how athletic you are, golf is not something you can kind of pick up in a day or two or a week or a month. It really takes a lot. It's a game you borrow. You never own it. And it's challenging. It's really fun. And you learn a lot about yourself and the people you're playing with because you're doing it over a 4-hour period. So you get to really experience a lot of ups and downs. In fact, for entrepreneurs, if you're looking to hire someone or looking to join someone's firm, getting out and playing golf with them is a great way to really see how they deal with disappointment, frustration, success. All of those things play out on the golf course.
It must be really relaxing and to get rid of stress as well, because especially in the summer when you're walking on that beautiful grass, it must be really good for
It's nice to be in nature. It really is, and to be out, just really enjoying the day and kind of being part of it. But so many people don't even see that because they're so busily focused on their game and their frustration and why did I just hit that in the water? I hate myself. I'm not doing well, and we have all this self-talk that's really debilitating. So again, it's a great learning experience of how to manage all of that.
That's cool. And Peggy, talking about sports, you also sports perform. You also teach sports performance workshops, right?
I do.
That's awesome.
I teach really about how to access the zone. There are so many athletes, performers who sort of dissolve into the zone accidentally, but they don't know how to get there. For instance, at the Australian Open in January of 2017, Misha Zverev was playing against Andy Murray. I'm sure you know Andy Murray. And Andy Murray at the time was number 1 in the world. And Misha beat him in 5 sets. And the interviewer ran onto the court and said, "Misha, how did you do it?" And Misha shrugged his shoulders and he said, "I don't know." He said, "I felt like I was in a coma." And this is a professional tennis athlete. So what I have discovered again and again and again is that so many players, competitors, athletes, even dancers, singers, they don't really understand how to access the zone with awareness, with mindfulness. They just know every once in a while they get there and it feels really good because it's kind of effortless. So wouldn't it be nice if everybody knew how to just get into that place and be effortless in everything they did? And here's the good news. Everybody can. It's just learning some skills.
Definitely. And Peggy, you was a journalist before you became a business owner, right?
I was, yes. That's my first love, and I still love to write. I still write blogs and articles, and I still contribute to a lot of different publications, and I just love it. To me, it's a great tool of communication.
And there's a quote, I don't know who made this quote, but the quote goes like this: every day is a chance to reinvent. Every day is a chance to reinvent yourself and become brand new. That's an awesome quote. I don't know who made that quote. I just found it online. It was an awesome quote, and I just thought I'll share it. I thought it would go good with this. Yeah,
absolutely. It's true. It's true. Every moment is a new moment. Every moment is a new opportunity. And when you look at some of the ancient wisdom teachings, they really talk about being born again. And each moment we're kind of like that child all over again, because each moment offers new opportunities and infinite possibilities. And so it's approaching each moment in that way and really being present with it.
But change is not easy. It's very hard. How can someone reinvent themselves? So how did you go from journalism and then owning your own business and then becoming a wellness expert? Because it's not easy to change. It's very hard.
It isn't easy to change, although it can be. It really depends on your perspective. So for me, my change really came out of adversity. It came out of the fact that I was really struggling. I was suffering. I was in pain a lot. I would have great moments of productivity and feeling great, and then I would literally crash and burn. I even rode a motorcycle around New York City, which is kind of crazy. And so when I say crash and burn, I mean it literally. Oh. So it's recognizing.
I crashed on my bike as well once.
It's not a pleasant experience. I don't recommend it.
Sorry.
It motivates you. It forces you to kind of face the reality of the moment and realize that, for myself, if I didn't do something to change this pattern that I would constantly experience, I was not going to survive. I was going to burn out. And that's really what was happening a lot to me. I was getting adrenal burnout. I would get illnesses. And this is what happens to so many people who suffer chronic stress, who suffer anxiety, is it really depletes the body. And we can get into some of the specifics if you're interested. But so for myself, I started seeking solutions. And I just started training with different people. And each experience taught me different skills. And I think my first aha moment was with world-renowned yogi master Amrit Desai. And he just, in this weekend workshop that I went to, connected me with a place within myself that felt calm and at ease and knowing, where I felt like I could do anything I wanted. Whereas before that, I felt constricted and I felt like, okay, when am I going to hit bottom again? Because that was my pattern. And suddenly I discovered this place where I could just be, and I could perform better. I could be healthier. I could be more joyful. I could see and accept reality as it is. And that for me was a huge breakthrough. And then I started training in all sorts of Western traditions to try to understand, well, where is that place? What is that I was experiencing and why? So I did train in all the things you mentioned earlier. And so that I would have sort of a context, a framework to really put everything in. And for me, what that's done is given me the ability now to really relate to anyone from anywhere, because I have so many different tools that I can share from my toolbox and help you put in your toolbox. And so depending what resonates with you and what your experiences are or your life situation is, I can craft a program that really works. And so that's been really gratifying, because with everyone I work with every client, I keep growing as well, because it helps reinforce just the techniques and strategies in ways that I could never have imagined. So I'm passionate about what I do, and you can probably hear it in my voice, because it's just such a wonderful gift to be able to give to someone else the sort of freedom to be who they are and to be able to release all struggles and let go of the suffering. So that was kind of how I morphed, but it didn't happen overnight. It took quite a lot of years for me to do all the trainings and to really morph away from my advertising agency and move into this wellness arena. And I'm really grateful that I've done that.
So it took a while. Was you taking baby steps or quantum leaps?
Both, actually. Some were quantum leaps and some were baby steps. And I think at the end of the day, for anybody listening who really is ready to move onto their path needs to come from a place of passion. When you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So it's really important to not take on other people's wishes for you and their shoulds and their directives, but to really find from within yourself what's important to you and where your gifts are, because we all have these inner gifts and these amazing inner opportunities that we need to tap into to fulfill really our mission for being here. And when we do that, not only do we feel gratified, but it turns into tremendous abundance, both financially as well as just interpersonally, the people you meet, the experiences you have. It just changes everything when you're really on the right path. So it's sometimes taking a wrong step to realize, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right, to guide you to the right step. So it's not always clear and obvious. It sometimes takes a little experimentation.
That's awesome, man, Peggy. And Peggy, for let's talk about anxiety now, because there's a quote: "Worrying does not take away tomorrow's troubles; it takes away today's peace." There are two types of anxieties. How can someone know if their anxiety is normal everyday anxiety or something more serious?
That's a really good question. Some of that actually stems from understanding a little bit of the difference between stress and anxiety. So stress, often we're aware of what things are stressing us. Oh, we've got to pay the bills. We've got to get our kids clothes or whatever. And so there's clear stresses that we have every day. And when we have anxiety, oftentimes anxiety is really from the past. It's from preconditioning. It's from messages that we might have gotten as children. Oh, you'll never be good enough. Oh, you're just never going to amount to anything. And we hold on to those in our unconscious or subconscious, and they bubble up in situations that will create a panic attack or create some kind of compulsion. So to recognize it, if we know what the source is of the stress, I'm afraid I might lose my job, then look at the reality of, is there any reason that you really believe that? Or is that an unconscious belief bubbling up and creating anxiety that you might lose your job? So there's a clear difference. So with anxiety, if you have exaggerated worries, if you are developing a lot of illnesses constantly and you really don't understand why, it may well be that, again, you're depleting yourself by having these anxiety attacks. If you just can't function in everyday life, you can't make decisions, your memory is not working well, you can't sleep at night. All of those are symptoms of both stress and anxiety, but with anxiety, again, it's more subtle. It just kind of bubbles up from inside. But when you get these signs, and there are clear signs, it's important to be mindful about them and recognize, don't just sweep it under the carpet, because it's really important to recognize that this is your body and mind signaling you that you need to address it. Not addressing it is kind of like having the oil light go on in your car. And you decide, okay, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to just cut the light. Well, guess what? The light's out, right? But it isn't fixed. The engine blows up. And that's what we do when we ignore the signs, is the engine blows up and then we get really sick, we get something critical, or we have an accident. And now you really have to face it. So it's better to sort of face it along the journey and to recognize it and seek help, seek support. There's lots of opportunities to be able to find ways through those moments in time. And usually there are segments of time, and it may be because of a relationship, it may be because of a health issue, it may be because of a work issue. So it's learning ways to navigate through that allows you to let go of the suffering and allows you to see the bigger picture and really be able to be more empowered.
Definitely. And our health is the most important thing, because without health we can't do nothing. You know, no matter how much money somebody has, without good health, that money is of no benefit, really.
And I totally agree with you. And I have to say, Jamil, so many entrepreneurs do not pay attention to their health. They're so focused on the golden ring that they don't pay attention. I work with a lot of CEOs of companies, and I train them in ways to really be able to manage that work-life balance and also to really integrate self-care. Take some time out to really take care of you. Because if you don't take care of you, you will have no business. You will have no entrepreneurship. So it is really critical. And plus, if you have a large staff, you really want to signal to the staff what's important and really want to be able to encourage that work-life balance for them as well. And by doing that, you actually reduce absenteeism and presenteeism and all sorts of healthcare costs and so forth. So for me, in talking with entrepreneurs, I think health, you're absolutely right. It is really so valuable, and we take way too little time in paying attention to it.
Yeah, there was a story about a multimillionaire, and he was in hospital one time, and he couldn't speak. Basically, he was in a hospital bed, and he couldn't speak or move, and he wanted to scratch himself, and he was trying to signal to the person taking care of him to like scratch him, and he couldn't. Basically, he couldn't speak to that person basically, and a few months later he got better, and then he said, If I could pay that person millions just to scratch that pain, I would have done it. Because I couldn't do it myself.
And we take our bodies for granted. You know, our bodies are so miraculous. The way they work, the way they support us, and our bodies are always in the process of trying to balance itself. And with stress and anxiety, we are way throwing our bodies out of balance, and it's really over long-term going to take a toll. And so if you really want longevity in your entrepreneurship, then it's really important to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I think fear can also cause anxiety. There's a quote, don't let the fear of what could happen make nothing happen.
Yes, absolutely. That's a really good one. And it's true. Fear is paralyzing. And what is fear?
False
When you
evidence.
look at it, what is fear? It is some preconditioned belief system that you've created to look at something that is causing this reactionary behavior. So if you just take that away for a moment and look at the reality of the situation, 99.9% of the time, there's really nothing to fear.
Yes, definitely. So, Peggy, how does stress affect your someone's health, and what can someone do to overcome fear that is holding them back from being healthy and truly living? Because if you're not healthy, like we said, if someone doesn't have health, they can't really live life properly. And if someone's always living in fear, like scared to take action, scared of what people think about them, they can't truly live as well. So how does stress affect health, and what can someone do to overcome fear that is holding them back from being healthy and truly living?
Well, as you just pointed out, fear really shuts you down. When you are affected by fear, you really can't make decisions. You really can't see things. It's really paralyzing. And stress is something that many people, especially entrepreneurs, kind of take for granted that's part of the territory. And it really isn't. Some stress is good. Some stress is okay. This actually is a built-in biological mechanism that we have for our survival. So some stress helps signal us that we're in danger. There's a burning building and we run and survive, right? But the problem is that because it's this sort of primitive biological reaction, what often happens is we perceive dangers that are really from our own illusions, from our own thoughts. And when that happens, we're still getting the stress response. So cortisol, adrenaline is being released from the amygdala in the brain, and it's coursing through the body, and it's pumping up our heart rate, pushing our breathing into a very rapid rate. And the energies actually go into our extremities so that we have the greater power to fight the danger or run away, right?
Yep.
So in the process of that happening, those energies are siphoned away from non-essential functions, from digestion, from our immune system. So when you have chronic stress was really meant for short bursts, after which we're supposed to recover. So when we don't take the time to recover, guess what? The body stops functioning properly. The immune system doesn't work. We get sick. So if you're getting sick a lot, that's a sign. Pay attention. And so what's important is to take time out for yourself. Maybe you need more sleep. Maybe you need to eat more balanced meals, more nutrient-dense meals. Maybe you need a little more exercise during the day. You're working so hard, you're sitting at a computer screen, pumping out numbers or designs or doing what you do, and you're not taking enough time to move, to get your body activated, to get your body functioning more optimally. And so there's lots of different ways that you can manage stress and reduce it. It's prioritizing those ways and those strategies. And I have actually in my book, Escape from Anxiety, I have over 100 different strategies that readers can use. And they can literally open to any page of the alphabet because it goes from A to Z, and just pick one thing to do when they're feeling stressed or anxious. And it just interrupts that pattern and changes that moment, changes the energy. And from a neuroscientist point of view, the expression is neurons that wire together, fire together, or that fire together, wire together. So it creates these wirings that become a pattern. And we keep defaulting back to that same pattern of reaction. Oh, I'll never amount to anything. And my boss just rejected my project. And so, gosh, I'll never amount to anything. And that wiring gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So to change it, which is very possible, we now in the neurosciences have learned about brain plasticity, you have to interrupt that pattern and begin to develop new habits, new, more positive habits. And it's very doable, but you have to make it a priority.
Is that neural pathways, neuron pathways?
Neural pathways, right?
Okay, that's what causes basically habits, right?
Exactly. And it takes 30 to 90 days to create new habits. So I actually work with a number of clients who have post-traumatic stress disorder, which literally has become a habit of reaction when they're feeling in danger about anything. One client, in fact, was held up at gunpoint in his own restaurant. And so he would be with his 2 young daughters at a grocery store checking some items out, and he would see someone wearing the shirt that the perpetrator had been wearing, and all of a sudden he would break out in a sweat and he couldn't function, and he'd have to just leave all the groceries and take his kids and leave and go out into the car. And so what we had to do was begin to give him new techniques that could change that reaction. As soon as he was aware that he was reacting in those moments to that trigger, he could stop it by using some of these different strategies. And he had to keep doing it. So it took about 6-8 weeks of working with him and reminding him and getting him to commit to it. And it worked. And he was able to, he's really happy and everything is working great now. And so it takes that kind of approach. And oftentimes we, in the world and culture we live in, we want instant fixes, give me a pill, cut off my arm, whatever you have to do, just get it done now. And some of these things are a process and a journey, and we have to take that time and really embrace our humanness, because we have vulnerabilities and we need to accept that, work with that, and especially as entrepreneurs, it's really important.
That's definitely, Peggy. And Peggy, are businesses using these techniques? Basically, what is mindfulness, and how are businesses using it to change employee performance and lower healthcare costs?
Mindfulness is really about being present in the moment, paying attention on purpose. As you mentioned earlier, the quote about, worrying about the future is kind of giving up the peace in the present. And so when you're constantly in that state of turmoil and worrying about the goal that you've set, you're really not in the present analyzing and working on what needs to be worked on, and also just interacting with associates in ways that are productive. Oftentimes we're in competition rather than in collaboration. We really are all in this together, and we need to support one another and be able to be there for each other. And that mindfulness helps us to do that as companies are beginning to integrate that more. We're even seeing mindfulness being taught now in the school systems in the United States, and some more of the progressive schools that are realizing that kids are starting to be out of control, and we're seeing anxiety in children now as young as 8. And that's sad to recognize that. So it's really important to teach mindfulness, to allow people to really understand how to be, rather than always worrying about what tomorrow is or wallowing in what was. Oh my gosh, that didn't work. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. All of those kinds of fears and thought processes hold us back from our greatness, and we can let those go. And it's practicing letting them go that can be the beginning and the first step.
So don't worry about the future and focus, be in present time.
And I'm not saying don't prepare for the future and don't plan for the future, but don't live in the future, live in the now. Because what I see so often, especially with young entrepreneurs who are just starting out, is they have this mindset that, well, when they have millions of dollars in the bank and when they have the big house and the big car to show off their success, then they will be happy. Rather, than being happy right now at every step along the way. Because if you're always deferring your happiness to some future point, you miss out and you never get to that point. It's always someday, and someday is not a day of the week.
Yeah, the Someday Owl, right? Brian Tracy calls it Someday Owl, isn't it?
Right.
There's an island called Someday Owl.
Oh, really? Oh,
No. Brian Tracy.
Oh, yeah, there should be.
There's not an actual island, but Brian Tracy says that. Someday Owl.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a lot of people who want to be there.
Yes. Being in the present, you enjoy life more anyway, especially when you're eating and drinking. If you're focused on the present, you taste the food better. You taste the drink much better as well.
It is true. When you eliminate distractions, a lot of people, especially in the U.S., watch television while they eat. And so they overeat because they're not paying attention to what they're doing. They're not being mindful. And they're not really enjoying the tastes and the experience. So I agree with you. It's really important to activate the senses and be able to use them in ways that, deliver pleasure.
Yeah. So Peggy, businesses are using mindfulness to change employee performance and lower healthcare costs. What do some of the most outrageously successful CEOs do? Most people, when they think of CEOs, they think of a man with a suit and tie, or somebody in the office, or
Not anymore.
somebody on a private jet on their laptop or on their phone.
Right.
But what do some of the most outrageously successful CEOs do?
What they do is they take time out for themselves and they meditate. I actually call this time out a productivity pause. So many of them will take 20 minutes in the morning before they even start their day and get quiet and just focus inward, do some deep breathing, maybe focus on the middle of the brow center, the third eye that yogis talk about. And by doing that, they actually connect to their higher self and to this great infinite expansiveness within themselves. They connect to their creativity. They connect to so many aspects of their potential in ways that isn't in black and white, can't be kind of written down in the moment, but can be experienced. And so it's really about getting quiet. It's really about quieting the thoughts, quieting the mind. And with a lot of the CEOs that I work with, I actually counsel them to take maybe 10 minutes in the morning before they even start their day to just sit and do some deep breathing and be quiet and focus inward and then write their task list. Because when you're in that quiet, calm state, you can actually see solutions more clearly where before you may have seen only problems. So you can really prioritize your task list better and actually improve your productivity. So a lot of these outrageously successful CEOs who manage really, really big companies, they've actually built buildings now that include meditation rooms so that employees can take time outs. And in fact, Oprah Winfrey at Harper Productions, she imposes a 20-minute meditation break at 9 o'clock every morning and again at 4:15 every afternoon, no matter what deadlines they're on, no matter what projects they're working on. They must take that time. And the staff is so much more interactive with one another. There's a calmer sense. There is much less conflict, much less illnesses. It has just improved every aspect of the business. And so it's a great technique and simple. You don't need any special equipment. You don't have to go anywhere. It's all just going within and finding that inner power.
So, Peggy, it was real awesome talking to you, and thank you so much for all the value you gave. I appreciate it so much.
My pleasure, Jamil. I'm delighted to be here with you, and I wish you all the great success. And I love the series you're doing, so carry on. It's wonderful.
Thank you. And if anybody wanted to contact you, where can they find you?
The best place is through my website, which is peggysealfon.com, or I can give you actually a free audio that your listeners can download for taking a time out, kind of a meditation, and it's at 3 minutes todestress.com. And if they go there, they can download the audio onto their smartphones, onto their computers, use it first thing in the morning and start your day in a place of grace and into the zone. And you'll find your day goes much more effortlessly.
That sounds so awesome. And I want to thank all the listeners for taking the time out to listen to this podcast. If you got value from this episode, please share it. And also please leave a comment in the comment section, and also please subscribe. And I'm your host, Jamil Jama. This is the Law of Business podcast, and that was Peggy, Sealfon. Thank you all very much for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Laws of Business podcast. Find out more about us on thelawsofbusiness.com. Thank you for being a part of our journey.